must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us a few minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi, East African time. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the news-making headlines across the continent of Africa, and a lot has been happening. I have the latest for you from Uganda, but before we get to that, let's start off with the news-making headlines in other countries first. But before that, I'd like to introduce my panelists this afternoon, Douglas Kirimi from Meru. Douglas, a very good afternoon to you.
A very good afternoon to you, Miriam, and also to our crew in our headquarters in Nairobi, and also good afternoon to my friend Jevan Karanja, and also good morning and good evening to all our friends across the world.
All right, very well. Thank you so much for joining us. And Jevan Karanja from Nanyuki. Jevan, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you, Miriam. It's a very good afternoon here in these areas of Kenya. Thanks for having me on the show, and good afternoon to our viewers, wherever they are watching us from. Thank you.
All right, very well. So I'll just go quickly through some of the news that are trending in the continent right now, and then we'll get into the conversation about Uganda, because it's one of the things that we have to keep talking about. And let me just start with Tanzania. And an international school in Tanzania has halted face-to-face teaching on one of its campuses after confirming a COVID-19 case among students. A second student is displaying symptoms but has not yet been tested. The school, UWC East Africa, said all learning at Moshi Town campus in northwestern Tanzania had been moved online until 1st of February. Day scholars could learn from home and borders would be restricted on residential bubble, Director Ann Masden said in a statement. Face-to-face teaching on its Arusha campus will continue, but with additional precautions. The authorities in Tanzania have downplayed the extent of the pandemic in the country and have not been releasing any data on infections or deaths. I apologize for that. And then we move to Mali, where Malian security forces used tear gas to disperse banned protests in the capital Bamako against France's military presence in the country. One of the rally's organizers is quoted by Reuters news agency as saying police were deployed in a riot gear to block about 1,000 protesters from gathering in Bamako Independence Square. Organizer Adama Diarra is quoted by Reuters as saying, and this is what the organizer said: "We demand the departure of French forces. After 8 years of intervention, it's been a total failure," he told the news agency. Now, Mali authorities have burned the protests because of the restrictions to slow down the spread of COVID-19. Bamako Governor Chief of Staff Daniel Dembele said France, Mali's former colonial power, has 5,100 troops in the Sahel region, which has been a front line in the war against Islamist militancy for almost a decade. And we go to Ghana. Lawyers of Ghana's opposition leader John Mahama say the timeline for the court case addressing their concerns over December's election is unfair. On Wednesday, Ghana Supreme Court set the date for the hearing of an election petition filed by the opposition seeking to annul the election results over irregularities. All parties must file their witness statements by Thursday afternoon, that is today, and the Supreme Court will begin the main hearing on the 26th of January. The Supreme Court said the strict timeline was able to enable the hearing of the petition within 42 days as prescribed by the law. But lawyers of Mr. Mahama argue that justice should not be sacrificed for speed. They had applied for a review of court's decision to dismiss the request for the Electoral Commission to answer questions about the process of declaring results. We head over to Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe's Foreign Minister Sibusiso Moyo on Wednesday died. At a local hospital, government spokesman George Sharamba attributed the minister's cause of death to COVID-19. The foreign ministry said he was a man who fought tirelessly for a better Zimbabwe. Moyo was the army officer who went on state television on November 15, 2017 to announce the military takeover of power from former late President Robert Mugabe. And then we go to Nigeria, where United States President Joe Biden has signed some executive orders, thereby lifting the immigrant visa ban placed on Nigerians by his predecessor Donald Trump. According to a report by Bloomberg, Biden also reversed the systematic ban placed on citizens from Muslim-dominated countries like Yemen. Trump has last February placed an immigrant visa ban on Nigeria, citing Nigeria's lack of robust database. The American ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, stated that at the time that Nigeria must improve on its data intelligence to ease the investigation of its citizens wishing to migrate to the U.S. if it wants the ban lifted. And so that is the latest news from the continent. So now let's just get into our topic of the day, and that is Uganda. We will continue talking about Uganda because I guess there's a lot of things that are happening there, and a lot of our viewers really, because you've been following this story, I think it's important for you to know what's really happening there in Uganda. And so the latest, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni today was expected to drive from his rural home to the city Kampala, making various stops in major towns. Mr. Museveni, who was re-elected last week, will make a total of 7 stops on his route. Government spokesperson Ofono Opondo detailed the journey in a tweet, and I will not go read all of that. Now, the President's Victory Lap, it is looked at, the President Victory Lap comes amid calls for the government to lift the house arrest of opposition leader Robert Kyagulanyi, the pop star turned politician popularly known as Bobi Wine, who has rejected the election results. The U.S. has called for a probe into allegations of election irregularities by the opposition, which have yet to file a petition. Of course, they can't file a petition because what happened is the government of Uganda raided the opposition offices. I think they were getting ready to file that petition as is required by the law. And then the opposition leader has been held under house arrest since, I think, over a week ago. Ugandans voted Thursday last week. And so do you understand how difficult that must be now there in Uganda? So that is just where we will start our conversation this afternoon. And I'll start with you, Javan Karanja.
Yeah, thank you very much, Miriam, for that question and for the updates across the African continent from various countries. And let me come to the topic of the day. One, that is violation of human right. When you arrest somebody under house arrest and you're not providing them with basic necessities that can keep them going. Number 2, the house arrest that Bobi Wine is under, it's something that is unconstitutional. He has not committed any crime because there's no crime that have been recorded with the investigative authorities in Uganda to show that Bobi Wine has been involved in one way or the other in causing mayhem or causing chaos that can disrupt the peaceful coexistence in the people of Uganda. Therefore, this is a violation, and this is a kind of intimidation. Because for me, I feel Museveni sees Bobi Wine. If he is out there, he might call his troops, he might call his supporters to go and reject this process and the results of the election through maybe a democratic way, through going into demonstrations, and presenting their petitions to various authorities, and maybe going to the Supreme Court. That is why he feels there's a challenge, and maybe something or this evil that he has been doing will be exposed to the international bodies and international agencies. That, I think, for me, that is the fear that Museveni has. But all said and done, he has already rigged the election. He has rigged himself in. What is he fearing? That means that he is a man, and the regime of Uganda under Museveni, for the first time it has been shaken. That is why they are doing all these kind of intimidations. And Miriam, to say, they are not providing Bobi Wine with food. And Bobi Wine was complaining that they have a kid from a relative who is with them around 1 year and some months. and he is seeing the kind of struggle that they're going through is harsh. Therefore, the best they can do is to provide, if they want him to remain there, let them provide him with the food and other necessities so that they can continue maybe manipulating him.
Okay.
But all said and done, at the end of the day, the people of Uganda will have a say. The people of Uganda will have justice. All this evil, a day will come when Museveni will pay. Maybe he wants Bobby Wine to go through depression and kind of emotional distress to a point where maybe when he be released out, he will be a distressed man, a disturbed man who cannot reorganize himself in order, or a person who cannot have that voice. I think that is the kind of intimidation that we are going through.
So what you think?
The people of Uganda will have to celebrate at the final, at the last hour.
Very well. So what you're saying is the government is trying to, they're called mental games there. Somebody, when they want to really, really break you down, that they have to work on your mind. And so if you're defeated there, then it's easier now to come in. But before we even get to the fact, because I have that piece of information here where Bobby Wine is saying they're starving, the child is starving, and they wanted to go, the police, the officials, they are saying they had allowed the wife to go get the food, and the wife is saying, no, I cannot go without my husband, because I wouldn't go without my husband. You don't know what will happen. You know, the guy has been held under house arrest since when, and what crime did Bobby Wine commit? You know, that is the big question, because he was voted with over 3 million people over, you know, the votes that apparently he got there. But we know that the elections, there's been claims of irregularities, and the opposition led by Bobby Wine had an intention to go to court to file a petition to petition that election. And now President Museveni, driving all the way from his rural home to Kampala, I guess it's a long drive, and he wanted to make stopovers and wave at his supporters and all that. Is it insensitive? Is this the right time to do that? Or this I don't care attitude? Will it help in trying to bring Ugandans together? Douglas.
Thank you, Miriam. And when Jevan said that President Museveni wants to depress Bobby Wine to death, maybe discourage him from lodging a petition, I was laughing. Because in military, they think when they depress your mind, when they put you under mental stress, they can be able to kill your will. But that is going to Riajana, is the younger constituency of Bobby Wine's younger constituency of voters. And these constituency of voters don't care about the struggle of Uganda in the war of Ruero. Anything that Museveni stands for, the people of Uganda, especially the younger Bobbies of this world, don't care about that. And these are the same people that Museveni is competing with by jailing and arresting Bobby Wine in Commundo in his house. And remember, the more Museveni keeps this young man under house arrest, the more Museveni is attracting condemnation from the international community. We have seen the U.S. ambassador to Uganda has spoken about it, and also wanted to go and see Bobby Wine, and she was blocked. And also the incoming Secretary of State in the USA, we have seen Mr. Bilken has been able to highlight and also mark Uganda as one of those countries that they will be focused on because of what is happening. And I'm not worried, because in the dying times, in the dying days of our regime, history shows us that a dictator does not listen to anyone. Museveni is not listening to AU. Museveni is not listening to IGAD, is not listening to AU, and also the American people. What I'm wishing Museveni is that I'm wishing him all the best, because this year he is going out of that office. All
right, Farrell, thank you so much. And one of our viewers here, Diaz Ayasima Barinje, or is it Barinje? I don't know how you pronounce that. Thank you. You're saying injustice, impunity, torture, intimidation, killings, and all kinds of ways to create a war of fear in all NRM. Is all NRM knows. Douglas, just the same, Javen, the same question I've asked Douglas there. President Museveni driving all the way from his rural area to Kampala, they're calling this a victory dance. Is it very insensitive when his election is disputed? The opposition is saying elections were rigged, and they wanted to go to challenge it, but President Museveni has gone ahead and, what it's called now the victory lap from his rural area to wave at its supporters and all that. Is it insensitive of President Museveni to be doing that right now?
that is something that, these people who have remained in power for quite a period of time, they reaches a point where they feel like they run these countries as their own private entities. That is why Museveni is behaving the way he is behaving, because he feels like Uganda is a part of parcel of a land of his property. That is why he feels like he can run it the way he wants. But at this time is insensitive when we have the opposition leader who garnered 30+% of the votes is under house arrest, when the international bodies are calling out the impunity and the hypocrisy in Museveni regime, when everybody around this place, even in neighboring countries, are pointing out to Museveni for his violation of human rights. Therefore, this shows a man who is not in any way, he is not human in any way to a point of thinking and caring to these people of Uganda, because he has rigged the election. He has intimidated the opposition. He has violated a basic right of internet connectivity during the electioneering period. Therefore, this is a man who he behaves the way he wants. But I feel like the time will come when he has to pay all the injustice that he has suffered to the people of Uganda. Therefore, this trip that is calling a victory, a victory tour or something,
a victory lap,
a Thanksgiving. Let's call it a Thanksgiving.
But it's too early for Thanksgiving when your election, when your victory is being challenged. I mean, how insensitive is that?
That shows a man who has no regard to humanity, a man who can commit all kind of crimes towards humanity. Because when you deny people the basic right to elect their leaders without violating the process, that's a person who commits a crime, and a big crime, because you are denying these people basic facilities, good services, good roads, and that is something that we must call it out, and it is evil. And the people of Uganda should continue the struggle, because here in Kenya, we were going through when we had the one-party kind of a regime. And when we repealed the Section 2A, we have seen for a period of time, and I can say this openly, that since 1992, we have seen presidents coming into power, and after finishing their 2 terms, they go home. And the same thing we expect with President Uhuru Kenyatta. Therefore, there is something that is possible, because in Kenya, it's something that we are doing. We are not, maybe we have few 1 or 2, 3 weaknesses, but still we are heading on the right direction. They can emulate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very well, thank you so much. And the latest is that the European Union now says it is concerned about the continued harassment of politicians and civil society activists in Uganda after last week's general election. The incumbent President Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power since 1986, won his 6th elective term. In a statement, the EU Council of Ministers called on the government to restrain its security agencies, investigate allegations of abuses, and bring to account all those responsible for violations. The vote was marred by harassment of opposition candidates, suppression of media, and a nationwide internet shutdown. And for those reasons alone, we cannot sit here and purport those elections were free and fair. I'm not sure, because those were the safeguards, things that are supposed to ensure that the elections are free and fair, and those were grossly violated there in Uganda. But Douglas, is President Museveni likely to heed to these calls by the European Union?
Miriam, like I have said before, that in a dying regime, when the days of your dying regime near, you don't listen to anyone. You don't listen to organized groups like civil society. You don't listen to opposition. You don't listen to your own people. Remember when Gaddafi heard that people are demonstrating, and he was in CRT in Arabia, his own town, and he heard that people in Tripoli are demonstrating. What he did is that he sent water tanks full of hot water to spray people, and also make their body hit by that water, and all manner of evil things, and also spray live bullets to people, thinking that they can suppress them using the army. And the next step that the man from Arabia, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, did is to order the latest fighter jets and all manner of military equipment. When you are in power, you don't listen to anyone. And Museveni also doing a military rap across Uganda for him now to greet people, because now he is coming from wherever he is coming from. And after now arresting Bobby Wine, who cannot even go get breakfast with his wife, and also suppressing the opposition in Uganda. The people of Uganda are not happy. Even on this television, you can see from our social media account, people are commenting. Even when we're not talking about Uganda, they are saying we are with Bobby Wine. These are a constituency of younger voters who don't care about General Museveni and his struggle for Uganda. Whatever he calls years of building Uganda, those people don't understand anything about it. And it is the high time Museveni hangs his boot and go. Because we have also seen, which is very in public domain, we have seen even prophets and servants of God have started saying God has spoken to them that Museveni is going. I'm not trying to preempt anything, but what I'm telling Museveni, also myself, in my personal capacity, is that he is going, and these are signs of a dying regime. When the EU runs away from you, the US has run away from him, everyone else has run away from him, except a few army generals who are trying to write Museveni can control the people of Uganda. Remember, Miriam, as I conclude on this point, the same man who is doing a victory rap waving to the people of Uganda, he has killed 54 people in 2 days. In less than 2 days, he had killed 54 people on 18th and 19th of November 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. Now, the same man who has killed people wants to go waving to people. Now he should also go to their graves and also pray there and lay flowers there, because he should be ashamed of himself. He is sitting on a blood mandate that is full of blood of the people of Uganda, and the people of Uganda are going to resist this kind of suppression of their rights and also stifling of their democratic voice is media.
Okay, very well. And I see a lot of you engaging with us this afternoon. Keep writing, and I shall be reading some of your comments before the end of this broadcast. Jevan, this appeal that European Union is making to the government of Yoweri Museveni, is he likely to heed any of this, or Museveni just doesn't care?
One thing, Miriam, is that these dictators, they have a habit. They have perfected the art of listening to themselves, advising themselves, and having a few close allies who they discuss their matters with. Therefore, whether Museveni is given all these order or sanctions from the US or the AU or whatever, he will continue doing this kind of intimidation. And I think the best way for Ugandans now is to initiate a negotiation or kind of a dialogue where Museveni and Bobby Wine and the other opposition leaders can sit down and have a discussion. I think that will be the easiest route to achieve prosperity in Uganda, because at the end of the day, maybe elders, anybody of goodwill, they can go and talk with him, and maybe we can initiate a handshake, and then we come through. We have a BBI process in Uganda, where maybe they will settle their things, because it is working in Kenya. Because if we try and Bobby Wine tries to go in the street to fight Museveni, things will not good. Uganda will not thrive. We want a process where both of parties will benefit, and that is through the negotiating table where they will sit down. Therefore, the AU, what they can do, or the AU or any other international body, is to try and to initiate a dialogue and to call people, the peace negotiators, those people who talk and people listen. They should come on the table, African president, and they settle these things, because we have seen it happen in South Sudan. Therefore, these things are possible, and we bring harmonious relationship and environment in Uganda, because at the end of the day, we want Uganda to remain and to be strong, and it cannot be strong when we have two parties that are fighting on the street, when we have two disputing parties that don't listen to one another. The best we can do is to talk to Bobby Wine, Museveni, and they talk, because at the dialogue table, that is where greatness is achieved. Because if we go the way Museveni did, through the gun, then we'll be losing a lot of things, because this is a digital era. We cannot use the primitive ways Museveni used to come to power in this century of knowledge and technology, and knowledge is power. Therefore,
yes, and it's interesting, Javen, it's interesting that you would mention knowledge and technology. We know that Museveni descended very harshly on technology. As you speak right now, the internet was shut but was back on Tuesday. But social media, you cannot access. And according to that story, the few days that the internet was off, Uganda lost about $9 billion worth of business there. So I don't know if that was even worth the shutdown. President Museveni, I know you really don't care. There's an interview I watched few years ago with one of the celebrated journalists here in Kenya, Chief Koinange. He went to interview President Museveni there in Uganda, I think in the last elections, and he said right now he's working for his grandchildren and children. He does not care. So Uganda during that time lost $9 billion US. You know how that will translates into Ugandan shillings. It's about 991.9 billion Uganda shillings there. So that's a lot of money in an economy that has been hard hit by COVID-19. All economies right now are suffering. So for you to just lose that because you cannot accept dissenting voices, or for people to express how they feel freely, I don't even know how some of these decisions are, but conclude your thought. Yeah.
When you see a leader doing that things without even being mindful of the economy, just a man who is not concerned with the people of Uganda. And that is it, Miriam. When you shut down internet, there are a lot of things that are done in the internet these days. That is why urging people to use this technology. But the government of Uganda is intimidating. It's suppressing the internet space in Uganda without remembering that, without having in mind that he'll need tax, he'll need money to run the government. Where will he get these resources if he is losing those kind of billions in 3 or 4 days when he shut down the internet? This shows a man who is not mindful of development, because when you lose that money, this shows that the economy of Uganda will not stabilize. It will continue heading to a road where it will not be recovered easily, where people will have hard economic times, where accessing food will be a challenge. Therefore, it's time that the people of Uganda start having a dialogue so that they can settle this issue, and they input sense in Museveni's mind so that he sees the kind of damage that he is doing, not only to the opposition, but also to his government. And Miriam, there's us in the Bible that these kind of corrupt people, they get on reading that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children. That is why some of them are covering public resources and milking their country dry in the name of leaving an inheritance to their grandchildren.
Well.
I think they should interpret that Bible in the right way, because also in the same note, where they gained dishonesty diminishes, they should also read that verse in the book of Proverbs as they combine both.
All right. Rashid Kimala, thank you so much for watching us this afternoon. So what you're telling me is the government did not restore the internet. Anonymous did. Who is Anonymous? Please update me. I've not heard that. Anonymous restored Uganda's internet. So now that $9 billion US, let me just break it down for you a minute before, Douglas, you come in. The Financial Technology and Service Providers Association, I've just had a good lunch, so I'm struggling here to even stay awake, estimates that companies in the sector lost at least 66 billion Uganda shillings, equivalent of 1.9 billion Kenya shillings daily during the shutdown. This includes companies such as Safe Border, we know we even have that in Kenya, a motorcycle taxi hailing app with more than 22,000 drivers. So those are people who missed out on their work, President Museveni or General Museveni at this point, and which reported that its employees could not earn. They need the internet to operate. Because our work is done on the internet, everything was down. We were not able to work. And also, I struggled with mobile money, because right now mobile money is such a huge thing. Even in Kenya, because this is where it started, when we have even a 5-minute downtime, just 5 minutes, that is a lot of loss in the Kenyan financial, in the bigger picture here in the country, because mobile money is such a huge contributor to the Kenya's economy. So that is something we don't play with. But now the internet was off there, so that was affected. And I wanted to send money to my mother, who stays outside Kampala, but he couldn't. That was a guy whose border was also shut, so the money he had wanted to send to his mother, he couldn't, because the mobile money was impossible. And so Wine alleged, that is Bobi Wine, widespread fraud, and said the mass switch off meant that he could not communicate with his observers at polling stations and share evidence of electoral violations, according to data reporter report told, there are more than 10 million internet users in Uganda in 2020, around 24% of the country's population. That's a huge number of people. So even the opposition could not get their numbers from their observers, or those who were lucky to be allowed to go and observe the the elections, because a number of them, others are not really allowed to access polling stations there to observe. And they're saying the figures could not be relayed to the opposition headquarters there. So is this not grounds enough for Bobi Wine to just for him to petition this, and perhaps something that the Ugandan court would listen to? Devin, is it Douglas?
Thank you, Miriam. And before I speak on the opposition thing, let me speak about the technology part and also people who work online. I'm an editor for a magazine in the US. My boss pays me via M-Pesa, and also the people that I coordinate to bring in the magazines, maybe from Uganda, Tanzania, and other countries. That means these people could not be able to deliver their work. That means for the days that they were working, those people will not earn anything. There are people who are doing forex trading across the world, especially even in this country that I know. Those people who are doing academic writing, those people who are doing magazines for different companies and also different brands of businesses, and also people who do sales copies for different companies, including General Museveni himself. I saw him use sales copies in his campaign. That means those people are not working. They aren't working. Poor Ugandans could not be able to access the internet, not only in terms of revenue, in terms of their own livelihood. Remember, we are in a digital economy. We cannot be taken back by a 76-year-old man who thinks that the only way for you to earn is to get a gun and rush to the bush and become president of Uganda. As a young person, I feel sad for the people of Uganda, journalists who do freelance work, people who work from home, and the millions of Ugandans who earn their living from abroad and also from a digital economy, meaning that means that these people don't leave their homes. For about 6 or 7 days or even 10 days, they couldn't work because a dictator wanted to stick to power. What is that General Museveni has not tasted in power that he wants to continue enjoying? What is that the generals and the people that cheer on General Museveni cannot feel the pain and also the suffering of the poor Ugandans that are working online? When an economy is outed, including girls that wanted to be taken out for celebrations, maybe they voted for Bobi Wine or voted for Museveni, nobody would pay using a mobile money. So that means people missed on their date, people missed on their social life was brought to a halt. Economically, their life was brought to a halt. Politically, Bobi Wine lost because they could not be able to get information from their supporters and also their party agents. That means Museveni had to bring down the whole economy of Uganda. And remember, Miriam, like I have said, it did not only affect the economy of Uganda. There are Kenyans who rely on the economy of Uganda. There are Kenyan companies in Uganda that rely on Ugandans. There are Kenyans here, Kenyans abroad, or people of the world, people of goodwill that contribute to the economy and the well-being of the people of Uganda, but they're outside Uganda. We have not accounted for that. That means a section of the world for over 10 days has been brought down by a dictator that doesn't care about anything else, but is stealing and leaving that property that is stolen from Ugandans to General Muhoozi and his children. And that's why the people of Uganda will keep praying against General Museveni and his family. He has brought a curse on himself and also for his family. Remember, Miriam, in Kenya, for 15 minutes or even 5 minutes, like you have said, if M-Pesa does not work, people are put under crab arrest.
That's a real problem. That's a real problem. So we cannot play with that. Yes.
It is a huge problem, and I wish to condemn General Museveni for what he did. As he continues doing his victory laps across Uganda, let him do those ones, but remember this year he is going on. Thank you.
Okay, Rashid Kimala, you have... You're saying the anonymous are hackers from the West. They fight for democracy, and now they went into Museveni's bank accounts. They're exposing his corrupt regime. Okay, so another WikiLeaks of some sorts. Okay, thank you so much. Namulondo Mariza, you're saying Ugandans wake up. We demonstrate to get our victory. Museveni will never hand over power peacefully. I'm not sure because at this point I think it will be prudent for the opposition to go the right way, which right now I think is the courts. But as it is right now, opposition's offices were vandalized and opposition leader is being held under house arrest. So let's just get the latest from Bobi Wine himself. A National Unity Platform presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi alias Bobi Wine has said he is stuck with his wife Barbara in Tungo Kyagulanyi and an 18-month-old baby without food following the siege by security on his home in Magere since last week. Now, Bobi Wine told a Daily Monitor by telephone last evening that for 6 days now, his family has been surviving on food they had stocked in the house, but without the milk for the baby. As you know, we have tried to go and pick up some stuff, but my wife was stopped at the gate by the security. The people who were willing to bring us food have all been blocked, and we have the baby of my wife's sister. The father who had dropped her off was blocked from coming to pick her, but now we have ran out of food, Bobi Wine said. So I'm assuming even they don't have the diapers. Now, Mr. Fred Enanga, the police spokesperson, however, claimed the food is delivered to the family using a boda rider. Why? Mr. Museveni, why? Is it true Mr. Kyagulanyi's wife asked to go out and buy some food stuff, but she demanded to move? No, they say it is true that Mrs. Kyagulanyi demanded to go to get some food stuff, but she demanded to move with her husband, and we refused. We have told her that if she's ready, we shall let her out, Mr. Enanga said by telephone. We are also not aware that Mr. Kyagulanyi has a minor in the house. All we know is that he has 7 adults in the house. If it is true that there is a child in the house, then we shall find out the truth and act accordingly. So that is the statement there from the police officer, the Fred Enanga, who I think has been given the responsibility to look after Bobi Wine there. So that is the latest there from Uganda. I don't know if you are having some... All right, I think we're okay. We had a bit of a problem there, but you're back. So now the wife, apparently according to the police, the wife is allowed to go out and get foodstuffs. But the wife is saying there is no way that I'm going to leave this house and knowing what I know about the Museveni's regime and leave my husband alone in the house. I'd rather have all of you escort us to the supermarket, but there's no way I'm leaving my wife in the house. I think I will do the same. My husband in the house. Javen.
Yeah, that is a very wise decision, because as we know, the government and the regime of Museveni can use all means to intimidate the wife of Bobi Wine. Therefore, I think that is prudent. He should not allow to go outside alone. He should be accompanied by the husband, because at the end of the day, these are couples. These are not just any other strangers. These are people who have lived together. They have gone through the struggles. They have gone through the intimidations together. Why do you want to separate them at this time? And it's so unfortunate that the wife can go out. Then you see he was abducted, and she'll be found in some other places somewhere, hidden. So it's good that either they remain in the custody together.
I know I'm laughing, but it is possible. Together. Yes.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Understanding the kind of support that Bobi Wine has. Therefore, let's call out a spade a spade. And Museveni here, he is violating, and he is doing a bad thing even he is showing a very bad picture to the East African community and to those people who see East Africa community as a hub of maybe democracy or development. But he has shattered all that kind of gains, because now even a country like Kenya, where we try to have a democratic space, we'll be termed as people who are not democratic because of these small things that are being done by Museveni. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it's time that he sets a good precedent even at the international level, and he should not intimidate. He has already rigged the election. Why? What is he fearing? What is he resisting? Because he has a party that is called a resistant movement. These kind of things, they contradict issues. And it's high time that he comes on the table and they talk their issues out so that they develop Uganda to prosperity.
Mm-hmm. And I know, like I said there earlier, Bobi Wine's party and together with other opposition leaders wanted to go and petition this win at the Supreme Court there to appeal President Museveni's win, and being held, under house arrest, first of all, for no reason at all. How now is he supposed to go about this, Douglas? How would you advise Bobi Wine to go about this? Okay, so Douglas.
Let me come in and say,
Go ahead.
You know, Miriam, the reason why Museveni is doing this, I don't know whether that is the same with their constitution, but here in Kenya, when you want to petition a presidential election, there's timeline. You are given some time. I don't know whether it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so that you have presented your case in the Supreme Court, and the judges sit and they decide, and they do that in a period of 1 week or so. Therefore, I think the Museveni is playing with the time factor to ensure by the time Bobi Wine will be released, he will not have time. The time will have elapsed to present his petition on the Supreme Court. I think that is a strategy that he is using if their constitutions guarantee that. But I feel they have a timeline when you can present a presidential petition, and that is where Museveni is working on to ensure that Bobi Wine will not do that at this moment. But when he will be released, he will not do that because time will have lapsed. I think that is a strategy that maybe he is using.
All right, very well. And one of our viewers here, Mbambazi, thank you. I've noted your name a couple of times on our timeline there. You're saying silent genocide in Uganda by Museveni. Mbambazi, what do you mean? What is happening exactly? What information do you have there from Uganda? Because when I read statements like that, I am terrified, and it's worrying. So I'd like to know exactly what's happening there, because we know we saw our media went there to cover the Ugandan election, but they could not. They had to sort of toe the line. They just did the reporting and came back. So so it's very difficult to know really what's happening there. But now Bobi Wine has been held since the 14th, since the voting happened last Thursday, and under house arrest for no reason at all. The government is not bothering to explain to the opposition supporters why their leader is under house arrest. It is not known until when Bobi Wine will be under house arrest or the next move by the government. But Bobi Wine and other opposition leaders had wanted to go and challenge President Museveni's win in the court, like Mama Mbambazi did in 2016, but was not successful. And the court then recommended that some electoral reforms take place before these elections happen. But of course, President Museveni and his government rubbished all those recommendations. And now look at where Uganda is today. And this person is supposed to go to petition this win, but he's not able to leave his house. Like I said there, it's quite interesting. So the EU is saying they're concerned. The US, they've raised their concern. What are we likely to see from these Western powers moving forward?
What we are likely to see is that they'll continue on pressuring Museveni to allow a dialogue, or to allow Bobi Wine to be scot-free and to walk around doing his business as usual, the opposition leader. I think they'll continue intensifying these calls. But what I know, at the end of the day, Museveni will soften his heart, and he will allow dialogue to take shape. And the people of Uganda will have a reason to celebrate at the end of the day.
While it's wonderful to be positive and just to hope for the best in a situation like this, but let's just go through the history and take, for instance, the long-suffering former opposition leader, Kizza Besigye. I call him long-suffering because that guy suffered. And, when he ran against Museveni 4 times. I don't recall Museveni saying, now let's come together, let's reason together, and let's see how we can move our country forward. That never happened. So you think he will have Bobi Wine come and they will have a conversation about moving the country forward? And what makes you think he would want to do that now? Devin. Okay, we seem to be having some technical hitches there, but I want to thank you so much, Javen, from Nanyuki, and I want to thank you, Douglas, also. Earlier had some bit of a signal problem. Don't worry, our internet is okay, just a bit of problems here and there, but it's fine. Here we know what the internet means to the economy of this country, so even it cannot happen. cannot happen. So I thank you so much for watching. So we'll come here tomorrow, hopefully, and then I'll bring us up to date with what else is happening across the continent of Africa. We started earlier by the news from Nigeria, and now Nigeria has been removed those restrictions when they wanted to apply for visa that were put by Trump. Now President Joe Biden has removed them. Also, the election petition in Ghana there is raising some concerns. The opposition is not very happy with the date that the court has given. And as I said earlier, Zimbabwe's Foreign Minister Sibusiso Moyo died on Wednesday from COVID-19. So we send our condolences to the people and the government of Zimbabwe and Tanzania. School has closed due to COVID-19. I don't know how President Magufuli will respond to this, because he told us through not garlic, but through ginger and what else? What did he say? And honey and lemon. They were able, and some prayers, they were able to cure COVID-19. So there were no COVID-19. So this international school, they just closed down because of COVID-19. So what measures are we likely to see coming from Tanzanian government? And Malians going to the street to protest against the army from France. You know, I'm smiling because this is something we've been talking about here so much, but it is a story I don't want to get into right now. Perhaps another day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Jevan Karanja, again, and thank you, Douglas Kirimi. My name is Bira Magutu. Thank you for watching. A very good afternoon to you.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.